Right. We can go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are here to talk about the Swift Gold Line, specifically the Everett downtown loop area. I am Chelsea Ongaro, the Community Engagement Manager with Community Transit. I'd also like to introduce Frank. Frank, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Frank Stanizek. I'm a project manager here at Community Transit, heading up the Swift Gold Line. Morgan.
Good morning. My name is Morgan McGrath. I'm the manager of the BRT program at Community Transit.
Thanks so much. So, before we dive into the details, I just want to touch base on a few logistics with the webinar. We are going to be doing a presentation today, and then after the presentation, we will take questions. You can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to enter questions. And if you have any technical difficulties or issues, please feel free to use the chat. And we are recording this webinar, and it will be posted to the online open house. So no need to worry about that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frank.
All right, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Let's get started. So Everett, Marysville, and Arlington are experiencing rapid population and employment growth along with increasing traffic. Community Transit is preparing a new investment to move more people by expanding transit while maintaining capacity for cars, extending the popular Swift Bus Rapid Transit or BRT system to North Snohomish County. Something new about this investment is we're exploring center running transit only lanes, which maintains capacity for cars and keeps buses out of general purpose traffic, but more to come on that later in the presentation. So this new investment to move more people is called the Swift Gold Line. Expanding BRT offers a solution that will benefit everyone, with roadway improvements benefiting cars, buses, and pedestrians alike. So before we jump into the Gold Line, we'll take a minute or two here to describe what Swift is. So first off, Swift is fast. You pay before you board at Swift stations, which have ticket vending machines as well as Orca card readers. Also, our Swift coaches have all-door boarding, so you don't need to queue at the front of the bus to pay your fare since you already did that at the station before the bus arrived. Secondly, Swift is frequent, providing all-day service, and Swift buses are scheduled to arrive at Swift stations every 10 minutes on weekdays during regular hours, and then every 20 minutes on the weekends, early mornings, and evenings. Next, Swift is reliable, and we implement bus lane priority and signal priority throughout our Swift network. And last but certainly not least is Swift is easy. At Swift stations, you'll see we've provided real-time passenger information displays so you can see what the next or when the next few buses are arriving at your station. Swift is also accessible for all passengers due to our raised Swift station platforms. Swift buses don't need to lower down or raise up, accommodating those who need it. And finally, all of our Swift coaches have onboard bike racks for riders to utilize rather than having to load your bike rack on the front of the bus, which can be a pain sometimes. So currently in service, we have three Swift lines, the blue line, green line, and orange line. As stated in the previous slide, we're here to talk about the gold line, just shown at the top of the map on the right side of the slide here. So you're probably asking, what is the Swift Gold Line? And well, it's a 15-mile bus rapid transit line that'll provide frequent service between Everett, Marysville, and Arlington. Like our other Swift lines, it'll be fast, frequent, reliable, and easy. Swift Gold will improve connections between local and regional service, including the light rail, and will improve transit capacity, speed, convenience, and reliability along the corridor, as well as improved traffic flow for everyone. It's an investment to move more people through the area while maintaining street capacity for cars. Now we'll take a look at the anticipated timeline for the Swift Gold Line. So where we're currently at in the project is called our scoping study, where we determine the routing, station locations, improved accessibility, and other items of that nature. The scoping study should be completed later this year, and then we'll need to move into environmental and design, which is scheduled to be completed by 2028. After the environmental and design is complete, we move into construction. We got to build the Gold Line, which will take a couple of years to 2030, and have a goal of launching the Swift Gold Line as soon as 2031.
And now I'm going to talk a little bit about our community engagement timeline. So within that timeline that Frank just talked about, we have a multi-phased engagement process that started last year. Last summer, we went out and talked to communities and gathered input on the route alignment. There were multiple options in the Marysville area. We'll talk about that in a minute. Right now, we are in phase 2, where we're asking for input on proposed station locations and bus lane options. And then next year, we'll be coming back to share more detailed information during preliminary design. And then after that, we will come back to ask for input on our draft locally preferred alternative, which is a technical term that essentially just means where the route is, where the proposed station locations are, and what the bus lane options are. And as I mentioned, last year we did that first round of engagements. We had nearly 2,700 people visit our engagement site, and we talked to almost 500 people in person, and we had a survey and a map comment form where folks could submit comments. And you can see those 3 options through the Marysville area. We heard from folks to prioritize and improve roadway safety, as well as improve traffic flow, pedestrian infrastructure, and continue to explore those center running transit only lanes that you're going to hear a little bit more about today. And we also heard from folks that they were sort of looking for a balance between where the routing would go, and we ended up selecting route option B. And now Frank's going to talk a little bit more about that route.
All right, now let's take a look at the proposed route for the Gold Line. So phase 1 of our community engagement evaluated route options based on technical analysis and community inputs. From that, it was determined the proposed route alignment would be route option B through Marysville. High level, this route option travels on State Avenue in downtown Marysville, turns on Schultes Road, and continues on 51st Avenue Northeast. The justification for selecting route option B balances the community's needs with long-term efficiency, directness of travel, and overall has the best outcome for cars and buses. Now we'll take a look at some bus lane options for the Gold Line. As you can see from the map here, we're looking at specific areas to potentially implement dedicated center running transit only lanes. In Everett, we're exploring 2-lane center running transit only lanes and 1 bidirectional center running transit only lane. More to come on that later. And in Everett, that area is approximately from Broadway at 7th Street to Broadway at Everett Ave, roughly 2 miles of dedicated transit only lanes. In Marysville, we're looking at only 1 bidirectional center running transit only lane due to roadway width constraints. The area under consideration for these center running transit only lanes in Marysville is along State Ave from approximately 1st Street to 100th Street Northeast. We need to go back into general purpose traffic around 88th Street Northeast due to roadway constraints by the roadway and cemetery in that area. So, what have we learned so far regarding bus lane options? Well, we studied 3 options for designing the Gold Line with select focus on high traffic areas of Everett and Marysville. First one is curbside and mixed traffic. Second one is business access transit, or BAT lanes as we like to call them. And then center running transit only lanes. So first, let's start with an understanding of what bus lane option is most utilized currently on Swift lines now, which is curbside and mixed traffic. Buses operate in the curbside lane with other general purpose traffic, with changes to traffic signals to prioritize buses. They operate in the curbside or rightmost lane of traffic, which results in friction with general traffic and vehicles turning right. And curbside and mixed traffic does have a lower cost to build, but a higher cost to maintain, reduced ridership, and fewer opportunities for roadway safety improvements. Next up is those business access transit lanes, or BAT lanes, which are dedicated curbside lanes for cars turning right and buses. We use BAT lanes along our blue line on portions of the route on SR 99 and along our green line on SR 527. Transit signal priority extends buses' green light time to keep them moving through intersections. BAT lanes require all vehicles to turn right except for buses. This option would remove 1 through driving lane of traffic in each direction, which will have heavy impacts to general purpose traffic. And BAT lanes also have limited opportunities to improve sidewalks and pedestrian crossings. So now let's look at how center running transit only lanes would work. First up is a one-lane bidirectional center running transit-only lane. Intersections will need to be widened to support this, which allows us to keep the same number of through driving lanes for general purpose traffic. It removes buses from those general purpose traffic lanes, which improves traffic flow. So you can see on the diagram, buses use a shared station platform. Center running transit-only lanes do repurpose the two-way left turn lane in the center of the road, but it maintains left turn lanes at lights with an option to U-turn to access businesses on the other side of the street. And removing the center two-way left turn lane and having cars make U-turns at intersection also greatly improves roadway safety. So here's a 3D still graphic to help better illustrate how the one bidirectional center running transit-only lane would look at stations at intersections. You can see on the graphic how a pedestrian would access the station via the crosswalk, and it also provides a refuge island for pedestrians if they're unable to cross the entire street on time. Next, let's take a look at the two-lane center running transit-only lanes configuration. Again, intersections will need to be widened to support this, which maintains the same number of through driving lanes for cars as there are today, and removes buses from those same general purpose traffic lanes. Also, again, this will repurpose the two-way left turn lanes, but will maintain left turns at lights with an option to U-turn. And center running lanes offer faster, safer, and more efficient bus rapid transit design used around the world. Separates BRT buses from cars, so BRT buses don't compete with cars in regular traffic lanes. It improves intersections and streets, making neighborhoods better for residents and businesses. It improves traffic flow for cars and buses compared to curbside and mixed traffic and BAT lanes, with a focus on improving traffic flow in areas where there are currently the most delays for buses and cars. It creates the opportunity for high projected ridership, which means high favorability for receiving federal funding needed to complete the project. And center running lanes do provide the highest level of service. However, they have a higher cost to build the project when compared to the other options. Here's another still graphic to help better illustrate how the two-lane center running transit-only lanes would look at stations at intersections. Not pictured here on the screen is the second station, which is on the other side of the intersection or towards us on the screen, but we saw that in the animation on the previous slide, so I hope you can visualize how that would look. So just a quick recap, center running transit-only lanes benefit everyone. It maintains the same number of through traffic lanes. It improves traffic by removing buses from these through traffic lanes, as well as intersection improvements. And it gives us the best chance at receiving federal funding for the project. Next, we'll take a look at proposed station locations for the Swift Gold Line. So right now, we're planning on 17 new Swift station pairs along the corridor. There will be new Swift stations at Smoky Point Transit Center, which will be the northern terminus, and at the Everett Station Swift Terminal, which will be the southern terminus. We're also planning for shared Swift Blue Line stations on Pacific Avenue at Colby and Wetmore Avenues, as well as future shared Swift Blue Line stations on Pacific Ave at McDougal Ave, which is near Everett's planned future outdoor event center. So the Everett segment of the Gold Line runs along Broadway with 5 anticipated station pairs. Then it'll take a right on Everett Avenue and run a little downtown loop to serve that area. We have shorter station spacing on Broadway, approximately every third of a mile. This increases access to the Swift Gold Line bus rapid transit system and gives us a potential for higher ridership. So for the downtown loop, currently we're looking at this loop taking a left on Hoyt, then another left on Colby, before finally taking a right on Smith Ave to ultimately end up at the southern terminus of the Everett Station Swift Terminal. This loop serves key destinations in downtown Everett, gives people an option to ride transit up the hill into the downtown area rather than walking up that hill, provides further transit connections to our Swift Blue Line, and reaches a high population and dense job centers, which increases ridership and makes the project more competitive for federal funding. So the Swift Gold Line will have impacts to businesses and residences in the loop. The first one will be Swift buses traveling in both directions every 10 minutes once the Gold Line is launched. This fast and frequent service in the loop will bring more people to local businesses and provide reliable transit services to bring you, family, or friends to your residences. Next is improved intersections, like we mentioned earlier in the presentation. Another impact is up to 3 new station pairs in the loop, providing more options to board and ride the Swift Gold Line or Blue Line. And finally, new stations require construction, so there will be construction impacts at or near station locations, but our plan is to not let this construction affect businesses so they can still be open and operate normally as they would without construction occurring.
Thanks for walking through that, Frank. I just want to talk a little bit about the engagement that we have going on right now. So our online open house is open. You can access it from this QR code or by visiting ctgo.org/swiftgold. The online open house will close on October 2nd, but up until then, you can learn more about the project. We have a survey available, and there's a sweepstakes for a chance to win $200 if you complete the survey. You can also sign up to receive email or text updates so that you can stay up to date about the project throughout those future phases of the project. And as you are businesses in the area, it would also be helpful if you could spread the word to your community about this project so they can share their input too. You could post on social or include information in your newsletter or email updates or post a flyer or a fact sheet. I'm happy to share those. Please reach out. There's contact information on our website if you need to reach us, or you can email us at engage@comtrans.org. And with that, we're going to open it up for questions. Before we do that, I also want to introduce Christopher Silvera. He is here as well, and he might jump in to answer some questions. Christopher, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh,
Hi, I'm Christopher Silver. I'm the Director of Capital Development Delivery at Community Transit and in part overseeing the SWIFT program.
thank you, Christopher. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so you can see all of our faces. And if you have any questions, please just enter them into the Q&A function. But I'm going to kick us off with a question here that I think is a question for Frank. Will there be center running transit only lanes in the loop that you described through downtown?
So no, there will not be center running transit only lanes in the loop downtown.
Great, thank you. Another question we have here. How will Swift Gold Line operations impact a business in that downtown Everett loop?
So Swift Gold Line operations will bring buses every 10 minutes to each station in that downtown loop. So it will potentially bring more customers to your businesses, as well as allowing more people to reach your businesses on a more regular basis.
Great, thank you. And similarly, how will construction impact a business in the downtown Everett loop?
So unfortunately, while we have to build it, so there will be construction impacts to build it, but our intention is to not let that affect regular business operations. We'll allow you to keep your businesses open while construction is occurring, and that's how it'll affect it. Anything to add there, Morgan?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is just we're a little bit early in our phasing of the project. We're really trying to just get some feedback right now on proposed station locations and bus lane configuration options. In the next phase of engagement, we'll be sharing a little bit more of conceptual design of what that could look like. And then we'll get closer to, when we get closer to construction, we'll have a lot more detail to share about potential impacts to specific areas.
Thanks for that. I would just also add that as Frank just answered in a couple questions ago, we're not proposing center running transit only lanes in that downtown loop. So the construction would mostly be limited to this at or near the station locations. So that's, and a Swift station construction is a lot different than like a roadway project where you're adding a sewer to the road. So the construction impacts are a little different there. And the construction impacts will be different for center running transit only lanes as well. But as Frank said, we would work with businesses and keep them updated about schedules and impacts, etc. Another question here, will you remove parking in the downtown loop?
So right now, our focus on this phase of engagement is for station locations and bus route options. We'll know impacts to parking in the downtown loop and along Broadway in the next phase of engagement. But we will be studying that and be looking for community feedback on that.
Thank you. And I'm not seeing a lot of other questions here, but if you have them, please enter them into the Q&A, and we will get to those. Give folks a minute to see if they would like to enter any of those. In the meantime, back to the center running transit only lanes. Can you talk a little bit about how riders would access the stations in the center of the road? I know you had those diagrams that you walked through earlier, Frank, but if you can just describe that a little bit.
Yeah, so on those diagrams, we had crosswalks going to refuge islands in the middle of the street to access the station platforms. So you'll just need to cross about halfway through the street to access the platform, and the bus will pull up to that platform and pick you up there.
Okay. Well, since I'm not seeing any other questions, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. But as I mentioned, we will be, this is being recorded and we will be posting it to the online open house, as well as sharing it via email with the businesses that we have emails for. So thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time.